Hi, I'm Dan Graf, co-founder and CEO of Earthchain. Our world is changing rapidly. Greenhouse gas emissions continue to cause global warming and change our climate. The effects of climate change are already beginning to have profound impacts on our ability to live safely in the face of forest fires, floods, heat waves and hurricanes, and to feed ourselves reliably in the face of drought, and to maintain stable economies and supply chains. I grew up here in the UK, but I've spent a lot of my life in Switzerland and have witnessed with my own eyes how the mountains have changed over the years. The shortening of glaciers and the loss of snowfields, which used to be a permanent feature throughout the summer when I was a child. If you've been following the IPCC reports, you'll know that the prognosis for the future does not look great. We still need to transform our way of life more substantially to mitigate the worst of the effects. We live in a consumer-driven economy where our demand controls that which is supplied. If we continue to demand cheaper, more disposable products, then that's what we'll get, regardless of the environmental impact. Governments and corporations could be driven to implement more equitable, greener policies or supply greener goods and services if we ensure that our demand forces them to move in that direction. Demand for lower impact products will also help to bring down the costs of living more sustainably. We as consumers have the means to exploit Keynesian economics, rewire it to force a more circular supply chain, to force the emissions impact of anything we pay for to be presented transparently, and to enable that to become a competitive differentiator. But the problem we face trying to engineer demand for more sustainable products and services is that ordinary consumers don't have the information they need to make the right choices. There's actually very little information available where it matters. At the point of interaction with a shop or website or financial services provider, there's no information that's actionable and allows the consumer to take the most effective path at any given moment to reduce their emissions footprint. This is where Earthchain comes in. Our mission is to help brands to empower their customers to live more sustainably by providing carbon intelligence to the points of customer interaction. Our carbon intelligence platform can estimate greenhouse gas emissions for retail transactions, for fuel purchases, for journeys by road, rail and air, and for a growing number of goods and services. The platform is available as a service through a set of REST APIs. We have three main focus areas. For banks, carbon intelligence can estimate the CO2 emissions for any credit or debit card transaction. We do this using data models that we've built from a number of government, academic and NGO published papers and data sources. But payment card transactions typically only deliver high-level information to our estimation model. We can make it a little more accurate when we take the customer's preferences and habits into account, such as their dietary choices, for example. Whenever we encounter a payment which we can classify as something where we have more accurate models, then we can prompt the consumer to add a bit more information. For example, if we detect a fuel purchase from a filling station, we ask the customer if they have a receipt showing the fuel type and volume of fuel purchased, which allows us to make a far more accurate CO2 estimation. Our second focus area is retail. Here, we have far more detailed information about the merchant, more detailed information about the supply chain and about the products in the shopping cart. We can produce more accurate scores for retail by considering the properties of the goods themselves, beginning with the goods category, moving down to the aisle and the shelf, and where available, even comparing individual products within the same category, looking at transportation, storage, seasonality and packaging, for example. Our product level estimation methodology is currently being evaluated by a team of students from the University of Manchester to help us make it as useful as possible. We have a working prototype able to carbon score baskets of groceries from online shopping accounts of a major UK supermarket. And soon, we'll provide this service to the biggest e-commerce platforms in the market, enabling online stores to be the first retailers to provide carbon intelligence with every sale. Our third focus area is individuals. Although our preference is to deliver carbon intelligence through banks and retailers, we wanted to make it possible for anyone to generate their own real-time rolling emissions footprints. So we've built an app which is available on the web and for iOS and Android, and it allows users in 7 different countries: the UK, the Republic of Ireland, the Netherlands, France, Spain, the United States and Canada to use open banking to connect their bank accounts and let us carbon score their transactions. The result is an evolving picture of individual emissions, a real-time rolling carbon footprint where the user can see which categories of spend, or even which merchant, is the source of their highest emissions impact, and it provides tips to help them to reduce their overall emissions. So we've seen how carbon intelligence can measure CO2 emissions, and that the information that we deliver can help people to reduce their emissions. The final part of the picture is what to do about the emissions which have either already happened or those which cannot be reduced any further. Here, we provide access to verified carbon offsets in the most convenient and accessible way possible, by the gram, instead of the traditional way, which is by the tonne. Our carbon offsets are provided exclusively by our partner, Gold Standard. They're an NGO based in Geneva, Switzerland, which certifies emissions reductions projects around the globe and tracks the emissions reduction certificates on a central registry. The projects which are certified by Gold Standard have to meet stringent criteria. Most importantly, they have to demonstrate what's known as additionality, meaning that these are projects which could not have gone ahead without this funding mechanism, which means that the CO2 reduction can only have been obtained through paying for carbon offsets. Not all carbon offsets are credible, and for that reason it was absolutely critical for us to partner with a trusted provider working to rigorous quality standards. The projects we support prevent greenhouse gases from being emitted using a number of different mechanisms. For example, by providing alternative renewable fuel sources for communities currently burning wood or coal to cook. Using biogas generated from food and animal waste instead reduces the amount of CO2 emitted, as well as reducing the fine particles in the homes and improving the health of the people who live in them. As well as reducing emissions, the projects all have wider benefits, which meet the United Nations 17 Sustainable Development Goals. Earthchain buys emissions reduction certificates by the tonne from Gold Standard and tokenises them into individual grams in our carbon ledger. When a customer wishes to purchase a carbon offset, they can do so in increments of a single gram in exchange for a micropayment. Our carbon ledger accounts for every single gram of CO2 offset, with a transparent and immutable audit trail which can be tracked all the way back to the Gold Standard registry. We use the low-energy Stellar blockchain to keep track of this as a decentralised and publicly visible system of record. This is how we ensure that our tokenization process does not enable double counting or the resale or transfer of the grams of CO2 that we retire. In practice, this makes offsetting the residual emissions as easy as one click. Earthchain customers can build portfolios of the projects they want to support, and every time they offset their emissions, those projects benefit. So that's Earthchain in a nutshell. Now let's consider our original premise once again. Earthchain's mission is to help brands empower their customers to live more sustainably by providing carbon intelligence to the point of customer interaction. So we want to work together with retailers, financial services providers, and the technology providers who supply them to deliver our insight into banking apps, e-commerce checkouts, the in-store point-of-sale terminal, anywhere else where knowing the emissions impact of a purchase or product might help to encourage a consumer to make a lower emission choice. We hope that this will begin to drive behavioural change at the individual level, which, when scaled up to the mass market through partner banks and retailers, will really move the needle on making consumer spending more sustainable and help to transform our economy. Thanks a lot for watching. Please let us know if you have any questions or if you'd like to learn how you can work with Earthchain to bring carbon intelligence to your customers.